If I don't click, got it. It makes me leave. That's not nice at all. What if
Well,
I
yeah.
don't get it, but I don't want to leave either?
Well, you're SOL then. You're a little like blocked out screen with like a blurry face.
No.
Well, that's probably better for everybody's viewing pleasure anyhow.
Honestly, that defines me at work.
A blocked out
Blacked
screen.
out screen with a blurry face.
Don't you teach in person?
Completely invisible.
Don't you teach in person?
What?
Don't you teach in person?
Oh, I do. I'm not invisible to the kids. I'm just invisible to everybody else.
Mm, I see. I see now.
I
Yes.
played in a golf tournament for my school yesterday, and I can't tell you the number of parents who have known me for 4 years who came up to me and went, "Did you cut your hair?" No,
Did they get the full circle in?
pretty much. I like the one who walked around me, looked at my back of my head, and then went, "Yes, you did. Yes, a year ago, like almost literally to the day a year ago. I think it was over spring break of last year that I caught it.
Yeah, that was crazy. That text was wild.
So
Like, oh my God, identity crisis.
yeah, when I went back to school that next Monday, the only person, well, the only two who noticed were the book dragon and the librarian. So the other book dragon.
I was gonna say those are two separate people, Chris, for the record. Book
I was like,
are
yeah,
separate
it's the
people.
same person.
Well, they are both book dragons, but we can't refer to them as book dragon one or two because then you have to figure out who would be one and who would be two.
Nope.
Say we're not doing that either. We refuse. So it's book dragon, librarian.
Gotcha.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
True.
Geriatric chicken pox, guys.
I know. I was about to say, Megan, tell everybody what happened to you this week.
I did not have a good week, people. I objectively had a really bad week, actually.
Just a little.
It's fine. I don't know how. Yesterday, Dad, on our book podcast, she said, "How was everybody's week?" And I was like, "I'm down bad. I'm not good. I'm not up. I'm not lucky. I'm not winning. Vegas is bad."
Vegas kicked your butt.
Well, okay, when you're charging drink tickets at happy hour for waters, you have to know that that's going to lead to a bad situation. Like,
Yeah.
get it together, people. An update on the marketers in my region. Of the 7 marketers, including my assistant, we are all out. There's not one left standing. Not one.
I thought you guys were 4/5 down.
Well, no, my boss is now down, and my assistant broke her foot. So we're all up. We're all out.
All done. All of
Yeah.
you. God.
Yes.
Thank you very much for checking in with March. Come and see us in April.
April. We'll try again. Yeah, of the 7 marketers, one's got a broken foot. 3 have strep. 1 has the flu. 1 has the flu and strep, and me, I got shingles.
You're an old lady.
Not certain how. Well, we do know how. Stress, but like
Without chickenpox. Ever.
yes. Yes. So for those of you who don't know, now you know. If you're super stressed, shingles can be triggered from the chickenpox vaccine. Watch your stress levels, peeps. Because this is awful. My organs itch, and I can't itch my organs. That's bad.
Do you think it's also like really funny that you're like, Tom mentioned this the other night, is that your doctor's telling you to tone your stress down, so you're stressing out about being stressed.
Yes.
Skyrockets it higher, and you're like, this is not helping at all.
That is the epitome of the term white coat syndrome. When they take your blood pressure and they're like, you have high blood pressure. Do you know that high blood pressure can lead to heart attack, stroke, this, that, the other, pooping your pants? And they're like, I'm going to retake it now. And then you're like, wow, it went up 10 points. Really? Really?
I wonder why.
I'm shocked. What do you think could have possibly happened here?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're just going to let you wait 10 minutes by yourself in this little room where you can only hear the clock ticking.
Yes.
Of course, in my head, I hear, and on the wall, you sense a clock and feel the slowly
God.
breathing, and you're like, oh God, no.
Now we've got Mephistopheles going on in here and Beethoven's Last Night. I don't know what to do.
Like, dude.
Yeah, apparently shingles can inflame your heart, which can lead to a 40% increased risk of heart attack and stroke, according to Google.
Stop reading Google.
Well, I had
Google's
to
a
look.
device that
I had
is designed to give you the worst answers.
look.
I have an itchy arm. Could be acute dermatitis. Could be tsetse fly infection.
Well, okay, to be fair, I was on Google because my heart rate would not go below 150, and I was like, what is happening here? Like, I am lying down. I was listening. Chris was sending me like heart rate playlists.
Sending her music that is written to calm down the heart rate, and she was like, "It went up 5 points," and I was like, "How the hell did that happen?"
You should have listened
Break it down.
to Eric Whitaker's Sleep.
Honestly, probably. And I was sitting there.
Shout out to Eric Whitaker.
Shout out to Eric Whitaker and the artist who draws Eric Whitaker's stuff for the poems for the books because he is wonderful. And I can't say his name right, so yes, somebody put it in the overlay. I dropped my laptop and just done. Go, oh, guy. Where was I going with that train of thought? I don't know. It's gone.
Heart rate kept going up.
Choo, 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 choo.
Oh yeah, my heart rate kept going up, and then I was drinking ice water. I was lying down flat. I was listening to the heart rate music. I was doing everything I could, and it wouldn't go down. And then I was like, shit, like what happens now? And then of course, the more I think about it, the more it's going up.
So I was telling the story to a person at work, and not Book Dragon. And she was telling me about how she was pregnant with her first kid, and she was having trouble with her heart rate fluctuating and keeping the baby up and all this other stuff. And how she had gone to the doctor, and she remembered that the doctor told her that one particular soda was caffeine free, which was Fanta. And the other one, which is red top, red time, I forget exactly what it's called, was like over caffeinated. Please do not drink that ever while you're pregnant. And she'd gone to a restaurant, and her heart was hammering. And so she had said to her husband, hey, what should I drink? And he's like, well, didn't the doctor tell you to get a non-caffeined drink? And she, of course, didn't order the Fanta. She ordered the other stuff. And so then the baby was like doing like flips and flops and everywhere. And she's like, I couldn't get my heart rate down for anything. She called the doctor the next day. And she's like, well, what did you drink? And she told her, and she goes, yeah, that has twice the caffeine of the average, Coca-Cola.
Wonderful. Yeah, I didn't have that. I didn't have any coffee. I didn't. Granted, I had been up for about 24 hours straight.
Well, that makes your heart rate accelerate anyways.
Well, yeah, but even on the plane the night before, because I had to do a midnight flight out of Vegas to get out of Vegas with this stupid conference, which I'm so glad I did because my friend literally got home like Sunday night at like 9 p.m. But even on the plane that night, I was like watching I was like nauseous. My heart rate was so high. It was just atrociously bad. All of it atrociously bad. Will not be going back to Vegas. 0 out of 10. Don't recommend shingles if you haven't had it. Oh, and then I texted my aunt about it because she's always at work conferences, right? And I was like, oh, like let me tell her this. She'll find this kind of mildly amusing. Because she's always going and she's always fine. She's never had an issue at a work conference, as far as I'm aware. And I was like, you're not gonna believe this. Like last year, I ended up with strep throat after the conference. This time, I got shingles. And she's like, oh my God, you're so young to have shingles. And I was like, yeah, like. Apparently extreme stress can trigger it from like the chickenpox vaccine. She goes, yeah, I've heard that too. I got shingles at 21. Makes sense. Tracks.
Actually, I think she was 25.
Well, she told me she was 21.
But still.
Okay. Well, either way, makes sense. And if you knew my aunt, you would A, know exactly which aunt I'm talking about. And B, you would also say it makes sense. And it's not a bad thing. It's just tracks for her personality.
She's a bit of a perfectionist. All right, so what are we talking about tonight?
Yes, I was in charge of the topics, and as I am categorically down bad, I ain't got one. So we're doing a free form question situation because I know Chris has had questions about Bigfoot that she wants to ask. I'm sure I could come. Yeah, I know. We know. We know you're so excited. He's like, I get to show off all of my knowledge and do the James May dance. And
I have one question about Bigfoot, just one, and I feel like it's literally just like the only question, and then he'll talk for the rest of the podcast. So,
well, I have an open-ended question about the Loch Ness Monster. So when I've got enough of the Bigfoot
Hey,
chat.
there you go. Because that was like my other topic. So there we go.
So yeah, we're doing classics today, guys. Classic
Hey.
I like classics.
because I could have done research this morning and I wouldn't remember it by this afternoon. So
True enough.
thanks, Dad.
No, it's true. All right. Hit me.
Say, Chris, hammer out your question.
Oh, I thought you were going first.
All right,
No,
you
no,
do it.
no.
I don't care.
I will interrupt when we've had enough of the Bigfoot chat and go with the Loch Ness.
Okay. So let me pull up my question. Roger
Should write
Patterson and Gimlin, obviously, are famous for the Bigfoot Sasquatch video that we all know, right?
Patty. Mhm.
Patty. They have, let's see, what was it? Was it in the 70s that the guy came out and said, "Hey, I'm the one that dressed up like her"?
Bob Heironimous. Yep.
Yes. Right. See? See, I know I didn't have to, I just had to remember the guys' names. I just remember the first two names. How do you feel about that? Because there was a lot of, yeah, he did kind of come out. He took the lie detector's test and he passed it, saying, yes, obviously I signed up for it, but he couldn't pick out the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Like he could not take anybody back to that spot.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't find the suit either.
Yeah, couldn't find the suit
Couldn't
either.
tell you who the suit was manufactured by, where it came from, and how it happened to have amazing flexibility to it.
Right. And then Gimlin said that he was not in on it at all, right? So that he kind of got
Correct.
fooled by the whole thing. So he was completely clueless. They wound up hating each other in the end. And
Well, wait.
You know that.
Back that up just a wee bit.
okay.
Gimlin felt for a while that Patterson may have, in fact, taken him in on a hoax because of what had happened with Bob Heironimous.
Right.
The problem with the Bob Heironimous issue, and that's actually come out over the years now. Patterson 100% recanted the idea that it was a hoax before he died, and he in fact made up with Bob Gimlin before he died.
Okay.
So they did have had a falling out. There's oh, wow. Okay, go on. Is this done or am I going?
Yeah, no, it was
Is
just
this where I go or
how
wait?
you felt about the guys and how you felt about the whole situation. I've seen lots of documentaries about it. I've seen interviews between the two guys and obviously interviews with the guy that came out and said that he was a part of the hoax. So I just kind of wanted to know your like feedback on it. Like, how do you feel about it? And you've done far more research than I have about it. So,
Well, I mean, my basic take on it is Bob Heironimous is full of crap. I'll just put it bluntly that way. Whether or not it was a hoax, first of all, for it to be a hoax, it would have to be of the same magnitude as the lunar landing. If the lunar landing is a hoax, you know the sheer number of human beings who would have to have been in on it in order to do it as a hoax, and then hold that secret until modern day. All
because
right.
they're still saying that they can't see how it would be that good of a hoax because they're
Well,
still
they
saying
didn't have flex fabric in the sense that we were talking
Exactly.
about. Like a lot of people sit there and they say, well, you know, a costume house in 1967 could have made a doable Bigfoot costume.
Right.
Truth. That is a truth. Unfortunately, we can see what 1967, 1968 Bigfoot costumes would have looked like. It's called Planet of the Apes.
Exactly.
That's about the same year that movie came out. In fact, I think Planet of the Apes 1 came out in about 1967. Planet of the Apes 2 came out in 1971 or 72. And the mouths were very, very much a Muppet mouth. And you could tell, I mean, you could see everything about it that was not anything but a suit. It wasn't like when you move your arm and your muscles flex underneath skin. So there's that part. But the other part about this is just Bob Heironimous in himself. All right. He perfected the Bigfoot walk. He really did. All right. So when they're like, please show us how you walk for Bigfoot. And they showed him do the walk and everything. And there have been a number of Bigfoot researchers, James Fay, Bobo Fay, being one of them, who talks a lot about how a Bigfoot will lift its leg up at a 90-degree angle, and humans generally will not do that. That's true. It is true that
So
we
Brad's dad.
well, and your Uncle John, by the way, also does that. All right. People who are used to walking in the woods will in fact lift their leg up that much, because that's how you keep from tripping on everything.
Yeah.
All right. You can perfect that walk, but what you cannot perfect is the ability to see.
Yeah.
And I say this because it is on record that Bob Heironimous has one glass eye.
Oh, okay.
All right. And he had one working eye. So his depth perception sucked. And he claimed that inside the head of the Bigfoot, of the mask,
Okay.
was a football helmet.
Yes.
Which means that if you've ever worn a football helmet, you're talking about 7 or 8 inches between you and your outside vision. Have you ever worn a mask that has 7 inches straight? Unless they put a monocular up to his eye, his working eye, and then put that mask over it, there, all he's going to see is the inside of that mask in a very little tiny itty bitty amount to see while he's trying to walk through the forest. You ever walk through a forest? I've walked through a lot of forests in my lifetime.
Yeah.
If I tried walking in a forest where I couldn't clearly see the ground, my ass is on the ground.
Right.
And I spend, I would guess, probably in orders of magnitude from the next guy out in the woods.
Right.
So that part, he's just a damned liar. I'll say that categorically. There's no way. Megan, I have a quick question for you. 2014, we did Les Miserables.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. What was your vest that you were wearing?
Lavender.
Megan.
Yeah.
In 2011.
Yeah.
No, I'm lying. 2010. Nope, 2011. I was right the first time. We did Peter Pan, Pierce Cater Robinson version.
Yes.
When we did the fairy dance, what was everybody wearing?
I want to say a lot of burnt orange and pink.
A lot of t-shirts.
Why?
When we are, the reason I say these things and why, to me, it's the same thing of when a Bigfoot report comes in that says somewhere around 2013 to 2015, I saw a Bigfoot. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say
Okay.
for record, I was 11 when we did that Peter Pan.
Also true.
I attended one night.
That's not my point.
No, I know. I'm saying if I can remember the color scheme of the show when I was 11 and attended one night.
I'm saying if you saw a 9-foot creature walk in front of your car on October 5th, 2017, you're going to remember the date, the time, and probably, the conditions of the road at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. You took part in the biggest hoax to ever be perpetuated that nobody can scientifically prove was actually a hoax. And you're not going to remember where they got the costume from, the color of the costume, and how it was designed.
And where you put the costume
He was
afterwards.
like 20, 25 miles off the track from where they even filmed that.
So even
He was
in
way off.
2000 and I want to say it was 13, maybe 14, Bob Gimlin took the Finding Bigfoot team to the exact coordinates
Yes.
of where Willow Creek happened.
Mhm.
And even in 2014, after 50 years, you're talking 50 years between the time, or just about 50 years, I guess 48 years between, the events at Willow Creek. And then you are talking about not having enough development, that they originally were on ATVs, had to stop the ATVs and get on horseback to get there. When we talk about people who have sightings and they are off trail, they're not talking about somebody who's having a sighting that's off trail, that's even a mile off trail. You're talking about 5, 6, 7 miles. The average human being never goes more than 2 miles off of any established track because they're afraid of getting lost.
Yeah.
Those people, and we do forget that the idea of the pioneer and the people who explored this country, okay, they were still doing that back then. There are many, many, many places, I see it, in this country that people haven't set foot in for hundreds, if not thousands of years, because they're haunted hollows, because there's some sort of curse there. Kind of like, I don't know, a place called Ape Canyon, which isn't all that far geographically from Humboldt County, California. I mean, when you talk about like 400, 500 miles, people are like, holy shit, that's a long time. Okay, it's not. 400 miles as the crow flies really breaks down to about 325 miles. All right,
Right.
Megan, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I just wanted to go back to like the memory situation here. Because normally I would agree with you, and I would agree that if you saw something like a Bigfoot, you would sit there and you would remember the day, the time, the year, like what happened specifically, you know. But I can think of one instance in both of our lives where we did see something really kind of strange in the woods. I don't remember what year it was. I don't remember what day
It's
it
because we
was.
couldn't identify what it was, though, too.
Like that we
And
so
it was summer of 2015.
I know it was a summer. Like I know that. But like I couldn't tell you if it was June, July, or August. I think it was July. Um it would
Yeah,
track
probably.
to be July. Because Chris, we used to go night hiking all the time in Maryland. And there was one time that we went night hiking, and the second we stepped into the woods, something was just off. Like something was just not right, you know. And we're going through, and at one point we were like, well, we can't turn around because we feel like something's behind us, but we hear something ahead of us. So the only option is to go down this gorge to this river. We get to the bottom of this gorge in this river, and there's like this like fog bank and this albino stag. Like we're like, what the hell is happening here? Because it didn't look like it was definitely a stag, and it was definitely albino, and it probably had a natural reason for being there, but like at the same time, something just wasn't right. It wasn't right. And we hightailed it out of the woods. But like I don't remember. Like if you hadn't just told me 2015, I think I would have guessed 2016, 2017.
I would also say that you were very young in comparison at
Yeah,
that time.
that's
All right.
true.
My point is that a person who perpetuates or is part of the perpetuation of one of the
Yeah,
greatest
it's not like we
hoaxes of all
planned them.
time,
Yeah.
you're going to remember where you got the costumes from. You're going to
Right.
remember how things looked. And also, by the by, and Bob Gimlin actually, he addresses this in an interview on the History Channel, where they talk about the greatest hoax that never was.
Mhm.
He says flat out, he was brought there. He was not brought there because he was Roger Pattinson's friend, which he was. Patterson's not Pattinson. That's Twilight, y'all. But he also was brought out there because he was a tracker and a major hunter, and
Yeah.
he was brought there as protection. And it wasn't like he was walking around with like a 22. He was walking around with I believe it was a 45 or a 50 caliber Winchester lever action. And when Patty got up and walked away, when his horse reared, he knew shit was about to fall.
Yeah.
He pulled that gun and he was ready to take the shot.
Mhm.
And here's the thing, if that had been Bob Heironimous in a costume and it had turned the wrong way, if he had taken that shot and killed him, it'd have been a murder for Bob, and B,
Right.
death for the other guy, and then also murder for Roger Patterson.
Because he didn't stop it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, the same thing happened in I can't remember the year. I'll either put it in the overlay or if somebody wants to fact check it real quick. I left my phone in the other room. In fact, my watch keeps going off to remind me I left my phone in the other room. But there was a guy, I want to say it was 2017, who was hit on the side of the road, dressed quote unquote as a Bigfoot. He was in fact wearing a ghillie suit, and he was running in front of cars pretending to be Bigfoot, and he got hit and killed by a young girl. I mean, I think she was maybe a teenager, maybe early 20s, and there were no charges in the case because the guy jumped in front of the car trying to scare people.
Yeah.
And people have lost their lives trying to perpetuate a Bigfoot hoax. And I'm sorry, I don't want people to die ever in my life, for stupid reasons, but you brought it on yourself too. Yes.
Yeah, I was looking at the article. He was hit by two different cars. The one that actually killed him was being driven by a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. They were not charged because of the aforementioned.
Yeah.
They kind of, the judge kind of said, well, he did jump in front of the car dressed as Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the same thing happened even in our lives when in 2010, Mr. Will, if you know who I'm talking about, Megan.
Yeah.
All right. He decided to come dressed at our house as a scarecrow, but really the scarecrow was designed to look like a Sasquatch.
I had the swine flu at this point, so everything's a little fuzzy here.
And so I answer the door and
Nah.
it says his kid Paul, you know, trick or treat. And I'm like, oh, that's such a cool costume. And I give him his treats. And then Will grabs me and pulls me out of the house. And Alex starts screaming. I had been watching Finding Bigfoot, and he knew that because we had been together earlier in the evening. And he was capitalizing on the fact that, this is a major interest of mine. And I squared up against him because as soon as I realized it was a human, I was like, I'm gonna take you down now because you pissed me off. And when he realized how mad I was, he was like, oh shit, shit, shit. And he takes off it. I'm gonna have to bleep a lot in this episode. He takes off his mask to prove it wasn't him. I still got him good in the, Chenardies.
I was probably
Because
passed out on the floor somewhere after fainting or thinking about unicorns. But hey.
but yeah, no, I
I'm using that room.
categorically, until somebody can scientifically prove that they can replicate fully that series of 300 frames, I categorically deny that is a hoax.
But we also need to think about their budget constraints too. Like, even if the technology was, or the ability was possible in late 1960s, did they have the budget to pull it off? Like, did they have the money needed to theoretically do it?
So rumor has it that Peterson had backing from, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but A&E at the time was a like wildlife company.
You mean like arts and entertainment?
Yeah, it may have been somebody else, but I want to say A&E or something like that. He was trying
They
to
weren't
do,
even in existence yet.
it was before, it may be a different company, but it was before they became like the company that we know them as. They were like almost like an independent kind of company, like very, very teeny tiny. They were doing wildlife company. They did like wildlife documentaries type of thing, but they were trying to break into like a bigger type of entertainment. And they supposedly were backing him and giving him funds. That's one of the theories that they have, is that they were providing him with the costumes and providing him with all of that entertainment and stuff like that. That was one of the.
But if they were a
That
small
would be weird if they were responsible for doing that. Then why
haven't they?
he have to go rent a camera on his own dime, and then B, not have enough film to finish the film? Why was there only 900 feet?
That, and if they are a small company, they still probably wouldn't have had the resources needed.
Yeah.
Like you would.
And then I would also
like
add
that.
on to it.
Yeah.
While in today's society, of course, we have AI and CGI that could create a realistic, take all the descriptions of Bigfoot, create a realistic Bigfoot, and they could easily do that. Up until the time of AI and true CGI, like good CGI.
Right.
Why is it that every single Bigfoot costume today still looks like, unless you're talking about $100,000, $200,000 costume, why is it today they still look like Daryl? The Sasquatch from the Jack Links commercial. And in fact, if you look up movies from the 90s with like Lance Hendrickson, there's one called Sasquatch. It's nice and easy name. All right. So pre-CGI, low budget film, the Sasquatch is very, very clearly fake.
Yeah.
Harry and the Hendersons is probably the best quote unquote Hollywood costume to come quote unquote the closest to an actual what a Bigfoot may or may not look like. It's a little more gigantopithecy than what I've seen artist representations of. And then again, you also have to go down that rabbit hole of, you are now going to have to say that every other person who's ever seen a Bigfoot is either lying, a lunatic, or a moron.
Right.
And
they can all be there standing in the woods.
Right. I mean, to me, that's anybody who sits in an office. I mean, this is and I'm stealing from Ken Gerhard, who I wish was actually on this and could talk about this. He's a Houstonian-based cryptozoologist. He's an amazing guy. But he has very rightly said, anybody who stood in the woods long enough to see a bear in the woods knows exactly what the hell they're looking at when they see a bear in the woods.
And smells like.
Also true. I mean, if you think back, Megan, 2008, we were
New
walking
Hampshire?
up. Yep.
Yeah.
See, we were walking up. Not
The
Pikes Peak, but it's the mountain up
with
in
Mount Preston.
Jackson, New Hampshire. And so we're going up this peak, and I mean, my sister and I grew up on a farm. All right. My brother-in-law is a city slicker from New York. My wife is from Warwick, Rhode Island. Not a lot of bears hanging out in Warwick, Rhode Island. All
Or
right.
New York City.
And, well, hopefully, well, yeah, but they're all named Bob. And so, you know, or really actually in New York, they're probably all named Vinny Bag of Donuts or something. Hey, Vincenzo Bag of Donuts. But when we were walking up this hill, my sister and I, we got to a certain spot and we both went, oh shit. Because bears have a very distinctive smell, and it's not the same as what people describe as a Sasquatch smell. That Sasquatch smell is always described as a mixture of skunk, urine, and, you know, fecal matter. And bears smell like beers. Like they just there is a scent, it's a musky smell to a black bear that is indistinguishable from, or completely distinguishable from, excuse me, every other scent you smell in the forest.
Yeah.
And I mean, my sister and I, we were on high alert the rest of the way. We're trying not to let anybody know. And of course, this one over here, Megan is like, Dad, what's going on? Dad, I can tell you, like, because I tense up whenever something weird is happening around me. And she's like,
Not subtle.
I know that there's something going on. And I'm like walking around with my hands in my pocket and my hands on my knife.
Sniffing the air, looking like Wolverine, like, okay, Dad, yeah, nothing's wrong.
Nothing's going
Right.
on, sweetie. Just cut it out. It'll be fine. So yeah, I mean, I've seen also there's now I believe the closest we've come to first generation of the film is second generation. It was found in Roger Patterson's widow's attic, and they were able to take that and superimpose it over some of the fourth generation film that they had from Bob Gimlin and really clarify. If anybody in the audience wants to look at it, it's in the second to last, or maybe even the last episode of the Finding Bigfoot series, season 12. I think is episode. Actually, I think it's episode 1 of that season, and it's like they go back and there's a gentleman who has been very into this subject who works for Industrial Light and Magic, which is George Lucas's group, and he did this amazing cleanup job. And to see where the thighs bulge as it walks, where you can see the calf muscles retract. But the most important part is when you see the bottom of the foot, and the bottom of the foot does not look like somebody wearing a shoe, nor does it look like a person who is barefoot. It looks like the bottom of a gorilla.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are definitely people out there who are like, it doesn't matter if they ever prove it's real, you know, it's fault or a hoax. It's real. It's as real as it needs to be. No, I don't believe in that either. You know, like I think that if science shows us that it was a hoax, then it was a hoax. But until science can, you know, I mean, frankly, it's produce the body.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
My belief in Bigfoot is a dispositive one. You can never prove it doesn't exist until you can prove that every person who has seen a Bigfoot is lying,
Right,
or mistaken.
You can't say it doesn't exist until you can prove it doesn't exist.
right,
Correct. Because I only need one of those reports to be right.
right.
No.
Yeah.
And you know, when you find tracks that are 5 miles off the beaten track, or you are, you know, and it's one single track, but there's no human prints any nearby.
I'm just saying, my working theory is that Bigfoots only have one leg because they only find one track, so this man is hopping through the woods. I know that's wrong. I just like saying it. It's fun.
When you are in the woods and you are miles away from the last place anybody else has been,
Right.
and you find a single track and it just happens to be on soft sand, and there's nothing else anywhere nearby, who the hell's going out there and leaving that?
Right.
Yeah.
Who has that time on their hands?
Not me, that's for sure.
Men who knows? Always the men
Oh, look at him.
I got a little nervous that those were from the 1930s, I'll be honest.
They're the men who knows from Hawaii.
Wonderful.
Well, that's the other thing is when people tell you that they've seen a Sasquatch and they're talking about, well, it wasn't quite 8 foot tall, so I thought they were all 8 foot tall. And say, well, I didn't know that. That would have really helped. It was so fire.